Hey everybody, welcome to Family Foundations. Today we're diving into one of the most read, most loved, most debated, most bought, most stolen, and most life-changing books in human history, the Bible. Whether you've never opened one before or you've got it highlighted from Genesis to Revelation, we're about to walk through and show you so that you'll be able to see the Bible in a whole new light. The word Bible comes from the Greek biblia, which means books. That's right, plural. The Bible is not just one book, it is a library, a collection of 66 books written by about 40 different authors over roughly 1,500 years. Now, these were not just religious scholars. We're talking kings, we're talking fishermen, we're talking farmers, doctors, shepherds, priests, government officials, ordinary people from all walks of life, writing in different times, different places, and 3 different languages. Yet somehow it all weaves together into one unified story about Jesus. How is that? Because while the Bible had many human authors, it ultimately had one divine author, God. We know that 2 Timothy 3:16 says the Bible is God-breathed. That means these writers were inspired by God to say exactly what He wanted to be said. That's why it speaks across times, cultures, and generations, and it speaks to you today. Well, the Bible includes a wide range of literature. There is laws like Leviticus and Deuteronomy. There are historical books like Ezra and Acts and 1st and 2nd Kings. There's poetry and songs like the Psalms and Ecclesiastes. There's prophecies like Isaiah, Ezekiel, Revelation. There's biographies, which are the Gospels like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then there's letters like Titus and Hebrews. But here's the big picture. So the Bible tells one epic love story about God's love, humanity's fall, and the rescue plan that God launched to bring us back to Him. So this plan was set in motion before He even started to create the world. There's 2 halves, the Old and the New. Now, the Bible is divided into 2 main parts, the Old Testament, which means Old Covenant, and the New Testament, which means New Covenant. Now, in the Old Testament, it has 39 books and begins with the creation of the world. It tells the story of a nation, Israel. God called a man named Abraham and promised to bless the entire world through his descendants. And we see that nation grow. We see that nation struggle and rebel and get rescued time and time again because God is so good. God gave them laws and covenants and promises, and He prophesies and promises the coming of a new king. And that's where we get to the New Testament. This is where it all changes. The New Testament tells the story of that promised king. His name is Jesus. He was born in Bethlehem, and He lived a perfect life, the only perfect life, and died for our sins and rose again. Now that changed everything. The New Testament has 27 books, starting with 4 biographies called the Gospels, or the good news about Jesus' life. And then it moves into Acts, showing how the early church exploded with growth. And then you get letters from leaders like Paul, like Peter, teaching people how to follow Jesus. And it all ends with Revelation, this wild prophetic book about the ultimate victory of good over evil when Jesus comes back and fully establishes His kingdom. So what's the point? And here's why it matters. The Bible answers all of the deepest questions of life, like who am I? Or why am I here? What happens after I die? Or how can I find purpose? How can I find peace? How can I find hope? The Bible is about Jesus, and He desires a relationship with you because God made you and He loves you and He wants you to know Him. The Bible is not just information, it is an invitation. Jesus is the central figure of the Bible. The Old Testament sets the stage for his arrival, and the New Testament unveils his mission and inaugurates the kingdom to save us and to show us what God is truly like. John 1:14 says, "The Word became flesh and dwelt among us." That's Jesus, God in human form. He didn't just talk about love, he showed it. And he didn't just promise peace, he made peace possible. Jesus is our peace. This book isn't just meant to sit on a shelf collecting dust. It's meant to be lived. It's meant to be followed. It's meant to be experienced. Are you struggling with anxiety? The Bible offers you peace. Are you feeling lost? The Bible offers you direction. Are you hurting? The Bible offers healing. Are you searching for purpose? The Bible reveals it. Whether it's the wisdom of Proverbs or the compassion of Christ in the Gospels, the Bible is packed with truth that can transform your daily life. The Bible has shaped so many aspects of our life, from laws to governments to justice movements and obviously our individual lives, and from art to science to civil rights. Its influence has been everywhere. We know that Martin Luther King Jr. himself was driven by the scriptures out of this holy book. And countless humanitarian efforts were launched because people read the Bible and were moved to action. Faith should move you to action. It's not just a religious book, it is a world changer. So, where do you start? Because it's easy to feel overwhelmed, but don't be. Start small. Try the Gospel of John. It's a great intro into who Jesus is and what he came to do. It shows the divinity of Jesus. Or you can flip through the Psalms when you need some encouragement. It's full of raw, honest prayers and songs, joy, pain, worship, fear, you name it, all of it, because God is not afraid of your emotions. He's not afraid of your questions. And now you need to remember this. You do not need to be a scholar. Just start reading one verse at a time, one chapter at a time, and let God speak to you. Translations. We know there's many translations to choose from, and it's important to know that while some are better than others, you shouldn't just choose one translation alone and say it's the best. I encourage you to read more than one. Personally, I preach and study from the ESV and the NIV. I like those because they're easy to read. Some people will disagree, and then you have the group that always wants to point only to the King James Version, but it's important to understand that the King James Version is based on manuscripts that are not as old as the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were discovered between 1946 and 1956. The Dead Sea Scrolls are about 1,000 years older than the ones that the King James Version was translated from. Now, while the ESV is more of a word-to-word translation that can make it seem a little wooden and stiff at times, so the NIV seeks to preserve thought for thought and to help you better understand what the original author was trying to convey or was trying to get across. So it should be noted that even for academic purposes, when writing an exegetical paper, most, if not all, scholars will steer away from the King James Version because of the language barrier that we don't speak anymore and the fact that it's not based on the older manuscripts. So most people in this situation would choose something like the NIV or the ESV if they were writing a paper. Now, obviously, like I've said, the Bible is not just an ancient text. It's not a book to get through, but a book to grow through. It describes all of humanity, the good, the bad, the ugly, because God is not ashamed to be called our God. That's why it tells us everything that they went through. The Bible is God's living word. It's meant to guide you, comfort you, challenge you, and change you. So what are you waiting for? Open it up, read it, wrestle with it. Let it wrestle you. Let it read you. You might just find what you've been searching for all along, especially when you seek God with all your heart. Thank you for watching. If this helped you understand the Bible at least a little bit more, consider hitting the like button and share this with someone who needs it, or maybe that's asking more questions, someone that needs hope. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos on faith, purpose, and truth, and to get a part of the family church that we have going on and help support the gospel going out into the ends of the world. God bless.